Well, welcome back to TuckerAllen Live. I'm Scott Trout, and I'm, of course, your moderator when we do this every Friday at 1 o'clock Central Time. And we're always joined by one of the TuckerAllen attorneys. And joining us again is Teresa Yao. Welcome, Teresa.
Happy to be here, Scott.
Well, I'm glad you are too. We're going to talk about another topic of interest to many, and I'll be watching our Facebook feed. And to make sure, if you have any questions, you can go ahead and submit those in the comments or chat box, and we'll get that to you. We'll try to answer it for you. So if you missed us yesterday, we had a great virtual town hall where we talked about the new administration, Biden administration, the potential changes as it relates to estate tax and gift tax and stepped up basis. And it was great. So I would encourage you to go on our website and rewatch that. It was a really good virtual town hall with some interesting information that may be coming up with the changes that the Biden administration has indicated. So today, though, we're going to be talking about where and why you would want to consider an adult guardianship. So always keep in mind, as I always warn, this isn't legal advice. This is really just want to talk generally and give you some talking points about estate planning and the areas within that as well. We encourage you to go to our website at TuckerAllen.com and schedule a consultation. You don't even have to pick up the phone. You can just make an appointment right there by clicking Make an Appointment Now. You can schedule that in any of our offices in the metro area, including up in Kansas City. So let's get to it, Teresa. Why is an adult guardianship ever necessary? Because the word to me, guardianship, has maybe some different connotations. I mean, sometimes you hear about it in the news. Here's an example. Britney Spears, she has a guardianship, right? And so what does that really mean? We hear it, we hear some of the negative things with it, but why would you want an adult guardianship?
Yeah, so an adult guardianship is only really necessary if somebody is disabled or determined to be incapacitated in one way or the other, and that they don't have a power of attorney document set up. And then so really there's no one with legal authority to be able to make certain decisions for this person. So then a loved one or a family member or some other person can petition to become a guardian or a conservator and be in charge of making decisions for them.
You made an important comment that caught my attention. No power of attorney, right? Yeah. That's, if you don't have something, I mean, that's huge, right? Because we've been talking about planning, and this week I was chatting with someone, and the interesting part about it, and they had not done anything in their estate planning. And I said, unlike anything else, filing your taxes, as you approach the April deadline, you feel this urgency that you've got to do it. And we all know we have to do some sort of estate planning, but we think, I don't feel like I'm in a hurry. I'm just going to put it off. But that's a great example. So if you had a power of attorney, right, you
could save so much time
and money,
in the long run. Right? Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's why powers of attorney, whenever we say, okay, if we have to pick something that's the most urgent thing for you to get done as like step one or step 1.5, like 1/2, we say powers of attorney, just because they're such simple documents to execute. If you have the capacity to do it, you can appoint saying, upon my incapacity, I want this person to step in and make healthcare decisions for me, or I want this person to make financial decisions for me. By having the power of attorney document, that way somebody has legal authority to step in if something happens to you, and the guardianship, conservatorship normally isn't necessary anymore.
So when we talk about adult guardianship, I mean, what does that mean? They're just making decisions? Do they control your finances? Can they sell your property? Kind of what powers do they have? And when they get that over you?
Yeah, so here I kind of want to distinguish between guardianships and conservatorships. Like for the Britney Spears one, she has her dad as the conservator. And then so their main distinction is guardians are more like the person in charge of making your personal care needs, kind of your daily living decisions. Whereas a conservatorship, the conservator for you is the person managing your finances, able to sell your house, able to do everything like that you can do in terms of finances. In terms of the scope, the powers that each one of them have, this sounds a little drastic, but it's kind of the truth. Like, I want you to think about guardianship, conservatorship essentially as like the legal death of somebody, because you're essentially saying my rights, my individual like capacity to do all these things, my guardian is going to do that instead of me, because the court is saying I can't do that anymore. It's not just saying, hey, this person can do it and I can do it too. It's saying, hey, this person can do it for me.
So a good question then, I guess, is examples, right? When do we consider it? I'm thinking when you mention that, is it like something dementia, Alzheimer's? They're not, mentally, is that mental kind of incapacity to make really good decisions regarding health and finances and just general care? Is that really what you're talking about?
Yeah, in terms of when this becomes kind of more of an issue, it is when there's like mental incapacity and that this person is not really able to kind of step in and do all these things for themselves anymore. And if they don't have a power of attorney to set up, because if they have capacity still, any kind of mental capacity, and if their treating physician says, hey, I think they still have capacity to create a power of attorney, that's always the better route than having to get a guardian over you. So it's normally they don't have the capacity to do POAs anymore, and then now they have to rely on the guardianship, conservatorship court process.
So is it one of those kind of the last resort, right? I mean, to me, it's a very sensitive topic when you're talking about a loved one, and maybe they kind of know, they kind of don't know. And the words, that's why I said the words have this negative connotation to me. Is it a last resort? And if so, what else would you consider doing?
I like to think of it as a last resort just because whenever somebody is appointed as a guardian or conservator, that's an ongoing relationship that they have in perpetuity with the court. Their responsibility, like their relationship is in their role to take care of you, and the court will have constant oversight to make sure that they're doing their job. And that just means a lot more hassle for your loved one to be able to step in and do those things for you. So for example, I would say conservatorships are a very burdensome role to take on. Sometimes they're necessary though, because with a conservatorship, essentially they have to provide an annual accounting saying, hey, I'm in charge of my ward. The ward is the person who's incapacitated. And every year every transaction I do with anything that's coming out of this person's estate, I have to have a receipt for, I have to be able to account for. And every year at this time, the court will want to see exactly how I use this person's assets.
I wasn't really avoiding it, but I'm pretty good at procrastinating. I needed a trust. When I found TuckerAllen, all our questions were answered, all of our fears allayed.
You want your wishes in place, so there's no guessing, no stress on the children.
Basically, they talk about what you need, what's important to you. It was more conversational, really very simple.
Is it something, parents, I guess let's talk about what's involved in the process and getting that. Is that something where, like, I would do it for my parents, or who is making that application? Maybe that's the question.
It really can be technically anyone. Most often, here we draw another distinction between contested and uncontested guardianships. Most guardianships are uncontested, which means it's pretty smooth process, because normally guardianships are like the spouse or like an adult child that is just looking to petition to get this legal authority. And then so what an uncontested looks like, let's say you are filing for a guardianship for your dad or something, and then you just need to file a petition to whichever county that your dad is residing in. And then you would say, I'm filing to be guardian and conservator over my dad's estate. Here are the reasons why, and here's a reason why it would be in his best interest for me to be appointed as a guardian and conservator.
Got it.
After filing that petition, the court will reach out to you and say, okay, here's a scheduled hearing date that we're putting on the docket. And in the meantime, you just have the responsibility to serve notice to all the people. So you have to serve notice, obviously, to your dad, because he's the one who's going to lose his rights. But you also have to serve notice to any other interested parties, like if your mom is still there, like if his spouse or siblings, those are all people that are interested. You have to serve the respondent, your dad, within at least 10 days before the date of hearing, and you have to serve notice to all interested parties just before the hearing date. So that's kind of the process ramping up to it.
And that's where I see this as, you mentioned siblings, you could get into and contested and really nasty, where some of these siblings think, dad or mom doesn't need a guardianship. They're totally with it. And then I guess it becomes really expensive and really nasty. And
absolutely,
you start breaking up families over this. And that's the thing that is so I wish everyone really could foresee these potential problems when they don't plan. And maybe now's the time for someone watching where they have a parent who doesn't have an estate plan and say, look, you don't want infighting between siblings or between, whatever your spouse and your children. You need to make sure you get the POA, start planning so your wishes can be implemented without fighting. Because here's a directive. Mom said, hey, John is to be my power of attorney and to make all financial decisions. And then, Sally is to make all my medical decisions. So, hey, when a doctor says I'm incapacitated and I can't do it, then you guys take over. And there's no fighting. It is what it is, right?
Yeah, and then in the POAs, you can even tailor it. Like, we always like to have one person after the other. So, for example, if John isn't, or Sally's responsible for your healthcare decision making, John can be the backup. And I have had clients who want to add in some custom language saying, okay, even though I agree and John shall have the legal authority to step in, I want my kids to converse with each other. And then so you can even make it more explicit just to make your desires known. And then, but like the benefit of the POA is you have that very clear instructions already set out, and you don't have to worry about while you're incapacitated what's going on within your family. Like you'd mentioned, contested guardianships can take a lot of time and a lot of money, and you just don't know how many hearings it's going to take for it to resolve.
Yeah. And who pays for it? Is that the person making application for the guardianship, or does it come out of the estate of the person you're obtaining guardianship?
So, I mean, if it's each person, it can eventually come out of the estate, saying the legal fees for getting this appointment made. But in the meantime, like before the guardian is appointed, each person essentially has to pay like attorney's fees, legal fees. And if it's a contested guardianship, it can take a lot of money in the meantime of your own personal resources before you can seek reimbursement from the estate.
So let's just say, as you think about it, I want to make sure I understand. If you get guardianship, does that include financial and health, or is that the difference between guardian and conservatorship?
That's the difference between guardian and conservatorship. Most of the time when people are petitioning to be guardian, they're petitioning to be both, guardian and conservator. And most of the time it's the same person serving the two roles. And
I guess that makes, if you think the term guardian, you're kind of watching over, protecting, taking care of, right?
Mm-hmm. And then conservator, you're conserving their assets for them, for their best interests. So.
Got it. And so I think that's the point, is we've said this kind of most Fridays, and that is some people feel overwhelmed with the estate planning process. And that is when we talk about how important it is to take steps like a POA or healthcare directive. You don't have to do the whole package, right? You can come in, you can just do your POA, do a healthcare directive, and at least that's a great first start, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So if you're really feeling antsy about doing your will or a trust right now, that's okay. You can do a POA. It might be more economical just to do everything in one package, but it's totally your call. You shouldn't let the whole package of services deter you from getting a power of attorney done.
Yeah. Or, if you have questions, it's kind of get the children of the parent who you may be thinking, we're close. They may be suffering from something that starts debilitating mental disease, and let's have a conversation. Let's have a consult with an attorney at TuckerAllen or someone who does estate planning to at least understand what we should be doing right now, right?
Yeah, and I think if it's like an adult child coming in for a mom or dad and saying, hey, mom or dad needs a power of attorney, it's great to have those intentions, but remember, powers of attorney you can only give to someone, you can't get over someone, so we'll have to talk to mom and dad, or mom or dad, in order to actually do the documents. And if there's a little bit of a gray question about capacity, we always ask for a treating physician's doctor's note, just to help us get started.
I mean, moral of the story is consultation is everything. And information is power, knowing what you should do, what you can do. And then you can make the decision that's right for your family, right for your parents, right for your kids, but at least plan. And, I think that's the important part. Right? I mean, it's like if I want to go on a trip, I'm going to take a look at the map. I mean, some people may just start driving and figure it out along the way. But if I want to go to the West Coast, I at least want to look at the map and know which direction I'm going. I mean, that's the point I try to instill with planning, is it's a roadmap, and you can pick the waypoints.
Yeah, you don't want to be stuck in like the deserts of Utah or something on the way.
Right.
So, yeah.
Well, great. Well, thanks, Teresa, as always, to kind of give us 15 minutes of just interesting topics and important ones that people really need to consider especially when they have parents that are aging and they have questions. So appreciate your time.
Absolutely. Thanks.
So, tune in always, every time, every week on Fridays, 1 o'clock Central. We're going to do TuckerAllen Live right here on Facebook and bring you topics just like this. So we want you to go ahead and check us out on social and set your calendars. And join us on Fridays. And then coming up in April, we want to register you for the virtual town hall, where it's an opportunity for you to log in via Zoom just like this, join the panel of TuckerAllen attorneys live, ask questions right there, and get answers during that virtual town hall with a topic that covers a more expansive issues with estate planning. So we look forward to it. Follow us on social. Go ahead and check us out at TuckerAllen.com. And if you want an appointment, we can do it via Zoom, via phone call, or in person where appropriate. If you feel it's safe, you can do that. We'll actually even come to you if we need to. So give us a call, check us out. Until next Friday, we'll see you at 1 o'clock Central Time right here on Facebook. Have a great weekend.